Take a look at this, shall we? We got my favorite channel, Wani. She's giving us the life over there of China. China's disturbing life swap reality show. Let's see what this is about. I love his channel, to be honest. It's one of my favorite channels so far to watch, dude.
Imagine if you get to swap lives with one person of your choice for 7 days. Maybe you live the life of a luxury celebrity, or even better, the son of a Chinese millionaire who gets an allowance of a property a month. But there's a catch. After the 7 days, prepare to have your entire life ruined. This is one of China's most disturbing reality shows ever produced, Metamorphosis. And trust me, for a lot of these participants, the only thing that transformed was their trauma. Back in 2006, Hunan TV launched a brand new life swap show called Metamorphosis, and it immediately blew up. The concept was simple: take one teenager from a rich city family and take another teenager from a poor rural village. Swap their lives for 7 days and see what happens. The rich kids were spoiled, yelled at their parents, and didn't attend school. The show was supposed to show these rich city kids what hardship really looked like. Meanwhile, the poor rural kids would get to experience city life, broaden their horizons, and get motivated to chase bigger dreams. Pretty inspirational.
What's the catch?
At least that's what everyone watching at home thought. Because the deeper you dig into this rabbit hole, the weirder it gets. Former contestants started exposing the producers for threatening and kidnapping them. They even said that they were being manipulated behind the cameras, and these people that they were supposedly helping, instead, when they went back home, it completely ruined their life. But how did it even come to this? I mean, at first, it was actually like a wholesome and educational program. The very first episode aired and it ended up becoming viral. It paired a teenager named Wei Cheng from the city of Changsha and a rural boy named Gao Jianxi from a poor village. Now, these two couldn't have been more different if you tried. Wei Cheng constantly skipped school. Most of his days were spent inside internet cafes instead of paying attention in class. He had a comfortable life in the city, but he completely took it for granted. Then there's Gao, and this kid lived in an incredibly poor village. Unlike Wei Cheng, his dream wasn't becoming famous or making tons of money. All Gao wanted was just a regular education so that he could escape poverty. And right away, you could see how good this pairing worked for the show. You have one kid with a bunch of opportunities, all wasted. Then the other kid would do anything to have the same opportunities. And the plot started cooking. Wei Cheng arrived at Gao's village, and the parents had to treat him as if he was their child for the week. And this is where the reality of the rural life hit him like a truck. Something as basic as getting water was not simple at all. They literally had to wait 3 hours for the water to seep back into the well so that they could fill the bucket to drink. Meanwhile, nowadays, people are losing their minds because their Molly tea is taking more than 5 minutes to make.
Dude, that's crazy though, because like the reason, okay, so this is kind of relatable to me or to us in general, but we were not spoiled, right? So Mama Azathoth took us back to our family members, right? Where, back in El Salvador and in Mexico, and how life is completely different and everything like that, right? And basically taught us like how water is basically conserved, how like certain things were a lot more different in general and whatnot. So like it's kind of crazy though, because like, yeah, because like specifically because the family member on both of my parents' side, they live in like cement walls, they live in metal sheet houses and everything. So there was no foundation, no concrete on the floor or anything like that. It was just kind of like you use metal sheets for the roof, and you use hammocks to sleep, or used very thin mattresses and everything like that. It was like a thing to see. It was like, for us, like it was just nothing really like we didn't take anything for granted, because like there are some kids who live in these very lavish places, but then when they go to like visit their families in a more poor area, they're always like complaining and whining and everything. And they always say that they want McDonald's, or they want like whatever fast food specific place that they want or so, because they're completely spoiled, because of their parents overall.
I'm talking to you, Kevin. And one day, Gao's father pulled out a small bundle of crumpled bills. Just 20 yuan. Now, 20 yuan isn't a lot for the city, but to this family, it was years of saving. Wei Chung immediately refused the money, but Gao's father would not take no for an answer. He looked at Wei Chung and simply told him, "For these 7 days, you are my son." And Wei Chung completely broke down because even later in his diary, he wrote that holding those 20 yuan felt like his heart was bleeding. And honestly, probably for the first time in his whole life, did he actually understand what money meant. Meanwhile, Gao was in the city living a completely different experience. He arrived in Changsha and immediately he looked like he was someone who just landed on a different planet. I mean, looking outside, there were towering buildings, crowded streets. Everything was so different compared to the small village he grew up in. And the scene that made this show go viral was during Gao's first car ride into the city, he looked outside the window and just started crying. This really hit netizens in the feels because Gao has never seen anything like this. I mean, he doesn't even know these things existed. And the contrast between these two lives were so massive that audiences could not stop tearing up. By the end of the week, Wei Chung was a completely different person. He voluntarily worked on a farm just to earn 20 yuan so he could repay Gao's father. He also kneeled down in front of Gao's parents and thanked them for everything that they'd done for him. And people absolutely ate this up because it became one of the greatest redemption arcs that people had ever seen. Just like that, Metamorphosis became one of the biggest reality shows in all of China. But here's the thing. Once the show became successful, it turned into the exact same formula. The city kid would always be this rebellious, spoiled teenager. They'd swap lives, get dropped into the countryside, and start complaining, breaking things. Meanwhile, the poor rural kid was almost always portrayed the exact same way. Hardworking, polite, and extremely poor, like to the point where they didn't even know what a shopping mall was. And by the end, the rich city kid would become grateful and the poor rural kid would be inspired to chase bigger dreams. When this first season came out, it really was an educational program. Like the transformations were completely real, nothing was really faked. But people started noticing something that didn't quite add up. You're telling me that years of bad parenting, family problems, and behavioral issues were all solved in just 7 days because the kid carried a bucket of water up a mountain? Something fell off, and eventually people realized that
this is really the most disgusting show ever, and the people blah 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 nailed to the pillar of shame.
They've been watching the most evil and manipulative show in all of China. Because the biggest controversy of Metamorphosis came during season 7. They paired two kids whose lives were extremely different compared to the other seasons. On one side, you had the rich, spoiled city kid, Shin, and on the other, the poor rural kid, Wang. Let's start with Shin first, because this guy was known as the most difficult protagonist to change in the history of Metamorphosis. Like already you could tell what they're doing. They're building a villain. Shin was 16 years old when he joined the show, and he already dropped out of school. Like, he constantly smoked, partied, and went clubbing. Whenever he ran out of money, he would just sneak into his mother's meetings when she was busy and just steal cash from her bag. He would also constantly threaten to sell one of his kidneys if his mother didn't give him money.
What?
Now that's definitely one way to negotiate
Holy
an
shit,
allowance.
dude, that's
his mother owned a hotel and they belonged in China's upper class of private business owners. Like, it's almost impressive how good of a contestant he is for the show. But when Shin first heard about Metamorphosis, he didn't see it as some educational, life-changing experience that will make him more grateful. Usually it's the parents who send the kids to the show, but Shin volunteered for it. His first thought wasn't, maybe this will make me a better person.
What the fuck?
It was, if I go on this show, won't I become a celebrity? He told his mother that studying was pointless, okay? It's useless. What a waste of time, right?
Oh, that's one way to become famous, I guess. Shit, Jesus fucking Christ. I bet your uncle is the producer for this show, to be honest.
He summed fame up into 4 words. Easy, entertaining, makes money, and gets worshipped. And this slowly foreshadowed how he approached the swap. Meanwhile, the girl he was swapping with, Wang, her entire family earned less than $1,000 in an entire year. Because while Shin was living life on easy mode, Wang had one of the saddest backstories in the entirety of the show. She lived in a tiny house made of mud in Shaanxi province, and her parents divorced very early on when she was only 3. And instead of growing up with them, she lived with their 70-year-old grandmother and her paralyzed uncle. That was her world, and their daily meals consisted of whatever they could grow that day, either beans or potatoes. And every day it was just survival, day after day. But Wong was incredibly smart and hardworking. She did all the chores by herself, cooked meals, washed clothes, and even looked after her paralyzed uncle. Whenever food was
Wow.
served, she'd quietly give her uncle bigger portions while she just ate less herself. That's the kind of kid she was. Her family
Wow.
genuinely believed that this opportunity would help her, like maybe she'd experience something she'd never seen before, broaden her horizons, and come back with more confidence. Unfortunately, it turned out way worse than expected. And real quick, you know what's wild? The show has been running for years, and somehow the people producing it didn't have to answer anyone. And that's kind of terrifying when you think about it, because how much power gets handed to people who technically shouldn't have any? There's a reason why you don't let unqualified people make decisions that will affect the rest of your life. Just like why there's a reason why Morgan and Morgan is America's largest.
Dude, I shit you not. Every fucking YouTuber is getting advertised by Morgan. Oh my fucking god, dude. I shit you not, dude. Every fucking person is just getting advertised by them, dude. It is fucking wild, dude, to see this. God lord, dude. Honestly.
First, let's go back to Shin's side of the swap. Thank you, Morgan, for sponsoring this video, and let's get back into it. But
Jesus
first, let's go back
Christ.
to Shin's side of the swap, because right when he arrived at the village where Wong lived, her family treated him like an absolute gem. They gave him their best room and even spent days preparing a welcome meal for him using one of the chickens in their farm, which is probably one of the nicest meals that they could ever afford. And Shin's
Eh.
response? He looked at the food. Sorry, if I eat too much, I'm gonna get fat. The room is not being read. Instead of talking with the family, Shin basically wandered around like a tourist.
Unk is running another program. He is a participator, except the thing that got swapped is on. Time to hire Morgan and Morgan to get justice on Co for all the uncalled for your mom jokes. I'm gonna your mom on these jokes on you, bitch. Shut up. Take it like
Started
a
writing
man.
random things on the ground and started chasing bugs with a broom because he was bored. Then after just a few hours, he immediately went to the director and said, "Can we stop filming?" Over the next day, he had exactly
That's
one goal:
crazy.
go home. Like, this man didn't care about changing. Like, he just wanted it out. Like, he already regretted it in the first 2 hours. I mean, what is this guy even doing
What the
here? He
fuck?
literally just starts emoting on them. He
What the
kept sleeping
hell?
in, he continued smoking, although now he had to settle for cheaper cigarettes because he didn't have any money. I'm surprised that wasn't life-changing. I mean, he was trying to escape and literally fell off the hill and almost
What?
obliterated the grandma too. So maybe that was life-changing. Someone asked him what he'd learned so far. He said, "I was born into a pretty good family," which is probably the most self-aware thing that he'd said in this
Jesus
entire episode.
Christ.
And what happened next is where things started getting really weird because the production team decided to just take matters into their own hands. Shin wasn't giving them enough drama. I mean, sure, he complained, he wanted to go home, but that just wasn't enough if you wanted a viral episode. But then we arrive at the scene that became one of the most famous moments in
Hmm?
all of Metamorphosis: the furniture smashing incident. Shin was asked to wash somebody's hair because that was one of Wong's responsibilities whenever she was home. He gets annoyed, starts throwing a tantrum, and then just starts breaking and smashing chairs, tables, and everything. And netizens were like, wow, this kid is completely out of control. He needs to be taught a lesson. Except, that's not actually what happened. Because according to Shin, he just casually said that he didn't want to wash someone's hair. Nothing dramatic. And that's when multiple crew members surrounded him and started threatening him. They kept
Whoa, whoa, are you serious? Damn, that's kind of wild to see that, to be honest. Jesus Christ.
saying things like, "If you don't wash your hair, you're never going home. You'll die surrounded by these mountains." Then, when it was time to eat, they told him he wasn't allowed to have any food because he wasn't behaving. And if he did start eating, they would either lock him in the cabin or just take the car and leave. I mean, he was pretty much being held captive here. So eventually,
That's a little bit fucking extreme in my personal opinion. I don't know, man. I'm like to get a cuz a lot of these reality shows are like they're fake. Like a lot of these ones specifically are fake in general, you know. But man, these guys were taking it a little bit too far in my personal opinion.
he snapped and he started breaking things like smashing furniture. And this is exactly the explosive scene the producers want. Convenient, isn't it? Because now the show had a dramatic turning point. Oh no, he
Yeah,
destroyed.
because like the reason why is because like if you don't surrender auntie, you know, you're gonna be sleeping up in these mountains pretty soon. That's what they say to uncle.
Destroyed the family furniture. Oh well, I guess now he has to earn money to replace everything he broke. See how that perfectly fits the narrative? Behind the scenes, whenever the production team wanted him to look like a villain, they would constantly provoke him, bully him, irritate him, but whenever they wanted him to look redeemed, they would be so supportive, like, let's go, Shin, you're amazing, we're so supportive of you. So after breaking all of that furniture, they kept threatening him, so he had to go search for work to earn enough money to replace it. And almost magically, a coal miner happened to be hiring. It's almost like the redemption arc came to him. So Shin ends up working at the coal mine, and he uses all the money he earned to replace the furniture that he had broke. He sincerely apologizes to Wong's family and actually starts being respectful, like talking to them and helping around the house. For once, he starts showing respect. Alright, roll the emotional piano music. The rich kid has finally turned a new leaf. And netizens, of course, they absolutely ate it up. They flooded the comments talking about how incredible his transformation was, how inspiring it was, absolutely beautiful. But after the show ended, Shin actually came out exposing even more about the producers. Turns out the scenes where he constantly demanded money from his mother weren't as straightforward as the viewers believed. The producers actually gave him 1,000 yuan every time he stole cash from his mom. These guys weren't just
What? Wow. So so they basically painted him as being the bad guy the entire time, but he really wasn't the bad guy. He was just kind of like, nah, I don't really want to do it. Interesting.
documenting a spoiled teenager, okay? They were directing one. But the consequences obviously don't disappear when the filming ends because, unlike actors, these kids still had to go back to their original lives with the reputation that the show had created for them. Ironically, all this controversy worked in Shin's favor. His arrogant image became his personal brand and he started getting millions of followers. And he also
Of course. of of course. Okay. All right. Nothing was changed at the end.
bragged that he got more girls now because he could confirm that he was rich
Oh.
through the show. No, trust me, babe, I'm rich. Did you watch episode 7? Shin just openly said the show hadn't changed him at all.
Of course it didn't.
But you know who it did change? The poor rural girl he swapped with. Unlike Shin, who entered the show already rich, Wong entered a completely different universe. The moment she arrived in the city, she was treated like royalty. Shin's mother treated her like a princess. There's a huge party awaiting for her and a massive cake that she'd probably never even seen before. She started attending school in the city and even stayed in a super nice dorm with her classmates. They welcomed her.
Wow, that kind of does poison the mind because it kind of reminds me of remember there was like a specific tribe or so in I think it was in South Africa where they I think it was, I'm not too sure. I don't remember the specific location or so where they gave them internet, and it was like a hardworking tribe or so where they like they get the food and all this other stuff, but then when they gave them internet or so, apparently the dude started like furiously masturbating to porn. And then apparently they got them lazy and everything like that and whatnot, and it's just kind of like Jesus Christ. I was like, who the hell discovered this almost immediately when they gave them internet?
Shared snacks with her and just made her feel included, and it was honestly really wholesome. She ate steak every dinner and posed for these luxury photo shoots. I mean, you could literally see her princess dream coming to life. But then things started changing really quickly because only a few days in, the show claimed Wong had undergone her own transformation.
Uh-oh.
Except it wasn't the transformation that her family had hoped for. She slowly started treating everyone's kindness as something she deserved. She started.
Ew. Ooh, that's pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie, to be honest. That is pretty bad.
Making her friends bring her food. She began using large amounts of shower gel to wash her hands, her feet, and just everything, which is considered a big waste. But you know what won't be a waste? Cheeky soap. So grab it still you all can. They still have solo leveling and Chainsaw Man going on. Use code WANting to support your boy. Links in the description.
Is it even this guy got a sponsorship of Cheeky Soap in here too? This guy got 2 sponsorships in here? My lord, my man is loaded. I ain't gonna lie. Respect though. I gotta give it the respect. I'll be honest with you.
Description? Thanks. She also expected classmates to fold her blankets and also forced people to comb her hair for her. She suddenly developed what Chinese netizens called princess syndrome. And then
Oof,
came
yikes.
the foot washing incident.
What?
Wong had started blackmailing a boy from her class and threatened that she would get him suspended if he didn't wash her feet every single morning. Now, once this aired, the internet.
Holy cow, what the hell? Uncle corrupting the youth? Yeah, what do you expect, you know? Why do you think Auntie left? With the kids.
Absolutely exploded. She got flamed and people just hated this girl. She went from being introduced as this hard-working rural little girl to suddenly becoming one of the most disliked participants in the entire history of Metamorphosis. Nessens called her spoiled, ungrateful, entitled. But guys, this is still a kid.
I'm gonna
okay?
hate your
She's
mom
not
in a
an
second.
influencer
Shut up.
chasing a Playboy millionaire. Imagine spending your whole life surviving and then
The
somebody
product of your mom's pussy wasn't that good. She didn't grip hard enough. I'm gonna get my refund on that shit. That's all I gotta say, okay? Alright?
comes in and gives you everything that you've never had. Of course, a child is going to enjoy that. I mean, she's a kid. But then the camera stopped rolling, and this is where the reality eventually set in because the show was over. She had to go home. Not back to the mansion or the shopping malls, back to reality. And coming back to her village was far from a happy ending. I mean, it was emotional. She spent the whole week living in a comfortable home, taking warm showers, making friends, not having to worry about starving for the night. And then just one day, pack your bags, everyone. Season's over. Let's go home. And you're dropped right back into the exact same life that you left. Except now, you know what you're missing. And that's probably the cruelest thing about this entire show. There's actually a quote that netizens kept using to sum up the rural kid's perspective of this entire show. I could have endured the darkness if I had never seen the sun. Wong started keeping some of the luxury habits that she picked up in the city, things like using shower gel, but they didn't have any in the village. So you know what she did? She asked her grandmother to walk nearly 100 kilometers just to get some.
Jesus.
And netizens saw this and immediately went, see? This kid is spoiled. Look, see, they aren't any different
Time to
from
be
the city
poor
kids.
again.
They're just as bad. And unfortunately, the criticisms just kept getting worse because she actually started asking her grandmother if she could somehow contact the Shin family again. She wanted to go back to see them and go back to the life that she had just experienced.
Wow.
But of course, the season's over, and eventually Shin's family stopped responding to her, and they even blocked her. It's honestly
Jesus.
heartbreaking seeing this. Because after the episode aired, she became one of the most hated kids in the entire history of the show. But then, years later, her uncle came forward and the story completely changed. According to him, a lot of Wong's princess behavior wasn't naturally happening at all. It had been manipulated and manifested into her personality by the producers.
Oh my god, of course. Of course that this is where this was going. So the entire time it was all fake and everything. Okay.
That infamous foot washing scene, you know, the scene that pretty much destroyed her entire reputation, her uncle claimed that Wong had actually been asleep and the crew woke her up and instructed her to ask a classmate to wash her feet. So, she did. Maybe going to a trusted adult isn't so trustworthy after all. And after the episode aired, people in her own village started gossiping about her. Neighbors pointed fingers and people whispered behind her back about the Wong family. And as she got older, the anxiety became so overwhelming that she rarely wanted to leave the home. She became terrified that people would recognize her. And eventually her uncle had to make the decision to move her to another town so that she could focus on studying. But after
Man, that kind of sucks. I ain't gonna fucking lie, to be honest. That's kind of shitty. Time to play the Kendrick song for Uncle.
everything and developing this so-called princess syndrome,
Wasn't even
she
real.
still took care of her paralyzed uncle. But nobody online cared anymore because once netizens decide you're the villain, good luck changing their minds. Her uncle said that he deeply regretted letting her participate in the show. He said that what had been advertised as an educational opportunity had ultimately become a game for the rich, which perfectly sums up the
Yikes.
entire show because, I mean, the rich kids, they get to make all the mistakes they want and people start applauding them and clapping when they become slightly less annoying. Meanwhile, the rural kid has to be perfect from beginning to end. If they show even a little bit of selfishness, they're fried. Almost every major city participant walked away with millions of followers on Douyin and Weibo. Do you guys remember the influencer Abby from a couple videos ago? Yeah, she was in the show. And we all know what mess she ended up in. Lee Hong
Oh, that was her? Whoa, it comes in full circle, doesn't it? Holy shit, dude. That's wild to see that. She was the bubble eye episode that we saw a couple weeks ago.
Lee Hong-yi was also a city kid during the 9th season, and he is now a famous actor and influencer with millions of followers after debuting in the show. And during a live stream, he actually exposed the producers and openly talked about the show. They forced the city kids to start breaking things and said that they didn't have to pay for any of it. And if there wasn't enough conflict, they'd intimidate them or threaten them to make more. Now compare that to the poor rural participants. They just quietly disappeared. All of them went back home to their original life, constantly hoping that they could go back to their city family. A lot of them ended up working in factories just to get by every day. On a good note, if you remember Gao, the rural kid from the first season who was crying after looking out the window, he was considered the only kid in the entire show who made it out with a better future. Ironic because that
Wow, that's crazy. Only one out of all the kids from all the seasons or so only made it out.
season is the only season that the producers didn't interfere with. Gao actually left the mountains and successfully entered Hunan Normal University, where he studied military defense. Since then, the show has been cancelled due to the controversy, and ultimately, the city kids were made to become famous, while the rural kids were exploited. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Wow, what a crazy ass thing, to be honest. Goddamn, dude. That is wild to see that. It's crazy. It kind of does show that a lot of the reality TV shows are just fake in general, so and just kind of like push um this fake narrative to paint some of them evil, which they're really not, you know. That's kind of crazy though. But that was a cool thing, dude. I love Wanting. This is one of my favorite shows, 100% to watch, to react to on stream. Like I said, it's pretty crazy. I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of shady shenanigans be happening in China, to be honest. Pretty shady things. Anyways, that's the end of the video. You guys can comment, like, subscribe, do all that fancy jazzy stuff. Uncle exploiting the poor youth. Yep, they've disappeared. They never returned to the light of day, to be honest. They have gone away. Whisking the it must have been the wind, you know. So it's kind of saddening though, to be frankly honest. Unlike these rich kids get even more famous and everything like that, but the poor kids don't even get anything in return, you know? It's kind of a little bit saddening, to be honest, but yeah. Anyways, that's the end of the video. I'm like, they could have just like, I don't know, maybe gave them a phone and you know, I don't know, maybe give them like, I don't know, some account or something, you know, for life updates or something after the show or something like that. I don't know, something. I don't know, because usually some other TV shows would do like an after, like a couple of years after or a couple months after or something like that. The best example is like Bar Rescue. Bar Rescue is the one that I give like the best example or so, when they say like, oh, a couple months later or so, you know, they either showed like the bar is still open and they come in, they talk to the person and blah 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 blah. So kind of interesting though. So kind of saddening, to be honest. Very saddening indeed. And yeah, sadly, like they never give the kids opportunities or so at the uh at the city or anything like that to help their relatives in any like shape, way, or form, like later down the line, and be like, oh yeah, we can work something out, like, 20 years, 10 years down the line or something, for you to come to the city and everything like that. But no, they didn't get nothing, to be honest. They actually got literally jack shit all, which is kind of saddening, to be honest. Bar Rescue has episodes of a reunion. Yeah, they don't have anything like that, unfortunately, because since like the show blew up in the first season, right? They started to go. The producer started meddling in with the actual episode itself, with the kids, right? The rich kids, anyways, and same thing with the poor kids, and basically, well, you have what you have right now at the moment, with the controversy making them shut down and everything. They should have done like a reunion or like an after episode, or like, 5 years later, or like not 5 years, but like 2 years later, 1 year later, a couple months later, or something like that, just to come back and have an interview with them specifically, and like how do they feel and everything. So, but I digress. It's whatever. It is what it is. So unfortunately, I feel pretty bad for those kids in general, at least the poor ones anyway. So the rich ones, well, they're rich. They'll be fine. But pretty saddening to see for the poor kiddos at the end of the day. Hopefully they're all doing all right, at least to some degree, you know. But oh well, it is what it is. Anyways, that's the end of the video, and peace.